What I'm about to say is directed to those of you who are at least somewhat aware of the fact that cannabis is actually the answer to the vast majority of our medical issues and most of the other problems we are currently facing as well. So if you are not one of those who have reached this stage of enlightenment in regards to the healing powers of medicinal varieties of the cannabis hemp plant, perhaps it would be best if you simply ignored this information in favor of other distractions, for the simple truth can often be very difficult for many to face. William Brooke O'Shaughnessy, 1809 to 1889, was an Irish doctor who introduced the healing powers of cannabis indica to Western medicine in 1841. In 1833, Dr. O'Shaughnessy joined the British East India Company, and for the following 9 years, he lived and worked in India. In this region, cannabis had already been used in medicine for thousands of years, and it was during the time he spent there that he began to discover a number of this plant's true healing abilities. After making these observations, he then documented what he had learned, and upon his return to England in 1841, Dr. O'Shaughnessy made this knowledge widely known. This drew a great deal of attention in medical circles, and many doctors then began to promote cannabis extracts and infusions for their analgesic, sedative, anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, and anticonvulsant effects. In addition, at the time, it was widely reported that cannabis medications could even relieve pain that opiates, such as morphine, had no effect upon. And unlike the opiates, which are still in common use today, the medications manufactured from the cannabis hemp plant proved to be harmless and did not produce an addiction. During the research I conducted a few years ago, I discovered that cannabis extracts, which were produced from the proper strains, do indeed have these pain-killing qualities, and they are truly far superior when it comes to relieving pain than any of the dangerous and deadly opiates which are currently now available. The homeopathic Materia Medica is an encyclopedia of the therapeutic properties of each drug, which has been ascertained through provings, also known as homeopathic pathogenetic trials. This encyclopedia focuses upon a collection of reliable medical reactions which one can expect when using highly purified medicinal substances. Therefore, this encyclopedia constitutes a homeopathic prescribing reference for those involved in providing these medications to patients. In the early 1840s, another doctor named John Moore Nelligan wrote a book titled Medicines, Their Uses and Mode of Administration. In his book, Dr. Nelligan confirmed the findings of Dr. O'Shaughnessy concerning the medical effectiveness of medications produced from medicinal indica strains of the cannabis hemp plant to successfully treat a wide variety of serious and debilitating medical problems. Cannabis medications were drawing so much attention in medical circles during this era that the Lancet, in their first volume on page 99 to 101, which was printed in 1844, did a review of Dr. Nelligan's book, and in particular, the statements it contained concerning the many uses of cannabis in medicine. This medical journal, which has now become world-renowned, praised Dr. Nelligan's work in contributing this knowledge to the existing Materia Medica. Therefore, this confirms the fact that over 170 years ago in England, successful human trials had been conducted with the use of cannabis medications in the treatment of many different severe medical issues. Even though all of this was very well documented and proven at the time in medical circles, the medical systems of today and the pharmaceutical industry appear to be oblivious to what had transpired regarding the medicinal use of cannabis at that time. Since all this knowledge about the healing powers of cannabis was so widely known way back in the early 1840s, this leads me to question why our current governments continue to claim that more study is required and that human trials must be conducted before cannabis medications can be put to good medicinal use. If governments were actually working on our behalf, and if their true intentions were to serve their people properly, then I find it very hard to understand why they would have allowed a harmless, non-addictive healing plant such as cannabis to become ignored in the practice of medicine, when medications from this plant had already proven themselves in human trials so long ago. And it defies common sense even further when one realizes that these same governments went on to outlaw the medicinal use of cannabis altogether. But to further insult our intelligence and present the public with yet another lame excuse to continue on with the prohibition of cannabis, it seems our current governments, much like the medical system and the pharmaceutical industry, choose to ignore the fact that it is now becoming common knowledge that successful human trials were indeed conducted long ago. Therefore, no one actually has the right to try to prevent the medicinal use of this life-saving plant any longer. But it appears that those who rule our countries have criminal intentions toward us all, and their greed and lust for more power seem to have no bounds. Therefore, as long as the public does not rise up in anger, those in control will simply carry on with what can only be termed as being genocide on a massive scale to maximize the profits for their rich friends who control the pharmaceutical industry for as long as possible. There is also a great deal of other ancient documentation regarding the effectiveness of cannabis in treating a vast array of medical problems. In fact, texts from the 11th and 12th centuries describe the use of cannabis extracts to even be effective in the treatment of tumors. So it can hardly be said that the treatment of cancer and many other serious illnesses with the use of medications obtained from the cannabis hemp plant is really anything new. All these statements I have made are actually well-documented facts, and at the end of this video, the links are provided to back them up. For years now, I have openly claimed that since many pharmaceutical companies were using cannabis extensively in the production of the medicines they supplied to the public during the 1800s and early 1900s, therefore, they must have known how to effectively treat cancer and other serious medical difficulties with the use of cannabis for at least 150 years or more. And I believe that all this documentation now proves that my assumptions were more than correct. This is not just some conspiracy theory, and I believe the proof I have presented speaks for itself. So those who are now aware of the obvious flaws in our governments and the medical systems they control must rise up as one and tell their governments that these lies and deceptions regarding cannabis will no longer be tolerated. For the cannabis plant must now be liberated for medicinal use to bring an end to all of this human suffering as quickly as possible. The only thing standing in the way of our natural right to grow and use this plant to heal ourselves are laws and restrictions which were put in place with the use of lies and deceptions. This abomination has gone on for a great many years, and countless individuals have suffered and died due to all this greed and corruption which was brought to us by our own trusted governments. It's time to bring an end to all of this madness and let the real facts speak for themselves. The cannabis hemp plant is actually man's best friend, for it can not only heal our bodies, it can also help to heal our sick and poisoned world. So I am calling on all governments to repeal these laws and finally begin to represent their citizens properly by giving them all back their God-given right to live as humans should. My name is Rick Simpson, and thank you very much for your time.